From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Let's get our unidentified aerial phenomena on.
Oh, fun.
It's been a running thing on these episodes and our Strange News episodes recently. And, spoiler alert, we had a phone call with a celebrity, and we talked specifically about the thing that we're about to talk about right now before it happened. So, crazy times. Let's jump into this. We got a message from another Matt. So let's hear it.
Hey guys, this is Matt in Arizona. Just want to say that I love the show. And I was reading an article yesterday about an object being sighted by a pilot. It was like a floating black cube. There's just been a lot of UFO news recently. And I wanted to know what you guys thought of it and if you think disclosure is coming soon. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Boom. Disclosure. Is it coming soon? That was literally the discussion that we had just the other day.
And that's not just a veiled flex on Matt's part, by the way, that we had a conversation about disclosure with a celebrity. That's going to come around and benefit you, the audience, on a podcast feed near you very soon.
It will be one of the weirdest things you've heard in some time, just as this was.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was a Transformers reference. I know what you guys are talking about now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm back on board. Okay, let's go.
Back in the game. Okay, so Matt, thank you so much for calling, first of all. We appreciate your kind words, and we also appreciate that disclosure has been on our minds a lot recently, as all kinds of reports have been coming out recently. This one, I think this is the one you're speaking about. It's a report from Popular Mechanics that I stumbled upon and actually sent to the guys. I think they probably saw it independently before I sent it to them, but we had a quick discussion about it. This is the title: Leaked Government Photo Shows Motionless Cube-Shaped UFO, and motionless cube-shaped is in quotations. Now, there are photos of this supposed UFO that you can find on that Popular Mechanics site, as well as a couple other places. I believe the Debrief had one of the first pieces of reporting on this back in early December, and they've got it's a really great wide photo of it right at the top of their page on the Debrief, and then a zoomed in picture as well. We'll talk about it a little bit, but I would just say the first thing that strikes me here, Ben and Noel, is the similarities of this thing to the Black Knight satellite.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? Just in shape, in form, it feels very similar to me. In looking at the image, it does not look cube-shaped at all to me, but can I guess imagine how it could be cube-shaped? It doesn't feel that way to me at all. But let's go through this on the Popular Mechanics side. So this is an unclassified image that has been going around U.S. intelligence agencies for a while. It claims to show this thing, unidentified aerial phenomena. It has been described by U.S. officials as silver and cube-shaped. And that is from the reporting on the Debrief. To me, it more resembles the Black Knight satellite and not so much a cube shape. But, this is a single still image, and the report is going off of what these pilots experienced, and then what, the images that were there. And we're only getting one still image, essentially.
Oh, and a quick interjection here for anybody unfamiliar. The Black Knight satellite, according to the True Believers, is a satellite that's in a near polar orbit of Earth, and it's extraterrestrial in origin. And the idea is that NASA is, for one reason or another, covering up its existence. There is space debris that might have been misidentified as that stuff, but I think this is related to our Corona or Key episodes where we look at the main flaw of putting satellites in space, which is that it's very difficult to keep them secret because the technology you need to see most satellites is not out of the reach of the common person if they're focused. But this is different, as you were saying, Matt, because it is one still image, but it is pretty clear. And I think the main conversation now is, well, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, what the hell is it?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of possibilities.
Right.
One of the primary writers there from the debrief that's been speaking about this is a guy named Tim McMillan, who also contributes to Popular Mechanics, and he's done a pretty great job of writing about this thing, and then several other people have been doing some great reporting, but they're just saying that there are multiple people confirming that this thing was a part of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force's efforts to look at things. It was classified in that way, and it comes from 2018. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of conjecture about that. Let's see. It was encountered by a pilot flying over the Atlantic Ocean on the east coast of the United States in that year, 2018. And the image that we're seeing, that if you look on any of these websites, it was captured on a cell phone. It's not as though it was part of the onboard systems of that fighter jet. I think it's an FA-18F Super Hornet. It was just a cell phone image. It was snapped from inside the cockpit, which is crazy to think about. And this guy that I was mentioning, the writer, Tim McMillan, he describes it as inverted and bell-shaped and having ridges or other protrusions along its lateral edges extending towards its base. Kind of the way, Noel, you were describing it there. It's really interesting because the possibilities are all over the place. One of the major ones that Popular Mechanics is pointing to is a GPS drop sonde.
With an E at the end.
Yeah, DROPSONDE. And essentially the theory there is that what you're seeing is actually a parachute that has been deployed with one of these things.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, looking at it. Yeah, I can see that.
It's possible that it could be that, but the issue is that the actual mechanical thing that is attached to that parachute doesn't appear to be in the photograph.
And just to be clear, like if it were a GPS drop on a conventional one, then it would have that cylinder hanging down from that parachute, and it doesn't have that piece of it. Also, Matt, when you originally said that you objected to the idea of it being described as looking cube shaped. I think part of it is down to the distance and the perspective. It looks like the person in the back seat, this is a two-seater fighter.
Yes.
Looks like the person in the back seat is taking this photograph over someone's shoulder, as you said, from a cell phone as they're flying. And from that distance, without zooming in, it would look cube-shaped. So I think we've got the benefit of analysis here. But I did notice the same thing when you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, we only have the image and then what the fighter pilots had to say about it. And here is just another extra piece of information from that writer, McMillan. It says, quote, pilots who encountered the object described that unlike a balloon under similar conditions, or perhaps even, a parachute of some sort, the object was completely motionless and seemingly unaffected by ambient air currents, which would speak to it having some kind of propulsion system that's allowing it to stay in one place rather than being taken just, by the air current.
Right. Yeah. Because the GPS drop sonde is like, it's dropping the
Yeah,
whole
that's
time.
that's a
right?
it's a parachute. It just kind of slows it down. It doesn't stop it in the middle of the air.
And I always think about this. Is it possible maybe that given the rate of descent, if this were just a parachute, and the angle and speed of the plane, is it possible that it could have appeared to be motionless? But if that feels like something the pilots would already have known how to suss out, right? Because they fly for a living.
Yeah, for sure. The only other thing I can imagine is that if it was a drop sonde or something like this that's really heavy, somehow the parachute itself is actually being pushed towards, so the air current is moving towards the pilots to where at such a rate that it's actually, the drop sonde is obscured out of view on the other side, like away from the pilots. But then again, they're passing by it, so they would see it on the other side. Then it would just be on the pilots to look back, I guess, and check it out on the other side. But again, I don't think that's physically possible, at least at the altitude where it was found, and the conditions, the air conditions. I don't know, man. It's definitely weird, right? It's just chalk it up to another very strange aerial phenomena that has been recorded and officially was on the books of the government program that's been out there looking at it since 2012, at least according to the official story. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this, guys. I just know I'm going to keep looking for news on it.
Whoa. And I think we're going to keep seeing stories like this. I think we're going to keep, it's like we said in the call we were talking about and just in general on the show, as who was it? The gentleman that was the head of the Israeli space program who came out and made some pretty extreme statements about disclosure level events. And it just feels like the facade is cracking a little bit. And we're going to keep seeing little drips and drabs. And stories like this don't make the news as much anymore, which I think is really telling. I don't know how you guys feel about that fact, that these stories aren't like front page news. Is it because everything else is so effed up that like this is just sort of a drop in the bucket? Or I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about the idea of these sort of reports being just delegitimized over time, just the whole idea of them or of the discussion, even like not having a place in public discourse, it just being inherently fringe because of terms of abuse like conspiracy theories and, all that stuff. I'm wondering what your thoughts are, Matt and Ben, on why this stuff doesn't crack through when it clearly is legitimate news, especially the Israeli, space program head and some of the things that we've been seeing coming out of retired Air Force people and this footage from pilots and the like.
There's a lot to say about all of that, Noel, but there's no way currently to prove any of the statements that were made by, or at least to any, I would say, actively working researcher that is not under some kind of gag order or, working on some kind of classified program to come out and verify any of the things that were stated by, oh goodness, Ben, what was his name?
Professor Eshed, yeah. Former general in Israeli forces as well.
Even someone with those kind of credentials, there's no way to prove what he's saying. And the only thing that could be said is you deny that there's some classified material. You can't say yes or no to it. You just say, we can't confirm or deny this. There's no good way to address it, I don't think, unless you come out and you just say, yes, what he's saying is true, and
all of it.
Get ready, hold on to your butts.
Well, it's like the there's a similar phenomenon we see in the debriefs report on this photograph, because they reached out to Uncle Sam and the official, like the Pentagon's response was, we can't give you any more details other than it was somewhere east of this one continent and it was over the ocean. We can't say anything else because it might, what is it? Like it might compromise our operations. They don't want to give enemy information. So that kind of obfuscation, even if necessary, does lend itself to speculation. And I will say that we live in a time and a culture now where we are all encouraged to believe in like instant gratification, or that things play out the way that our favorite televised dramas or films do. Life does not obey a 3-act structure, right? These reports may be increasing in frequency, but it is somewhat self-centered to, like, it's the way that doomsday cults work, because people like to think naturally, I will be alive during this hugely important event. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just because we feel that, and there's nothing wrong with having feelings. I hear they're great. But just because people feel that way doesn't automatically make it true. You know what I mean? I do see an increased frequency, but I don't know what that means, Matt. I mean, I think you make one of the most important points here, which is that if this were a magic 8-ball, we would need the answer would be ask again later, right now. And look, I really want there to be extraterrestrials, and I really want them to be like out in the open in my lifetime. That's fine if it leads to my painful death. I don't care. I've had it coming for a while. It'll just be worth it to live in that time.
I want them to be cool and smarter than us, but like willing to share and be chill and like make life better. And that's my like benevolent, optimistic view of disclosure. I know the reality is it'll probably be like we are a cancerous plague upon the universe, and they're going to exterminate us, probably with good reason. But, I'm holding out hope for the at least somewhere in the middle of those two things. We've had a rough year, aliens, Come hang with us.
I hear you.
You share your wisdom.
You want the Galactic Federations, but
I want the Galactic Federation.
What we're gonna get are the Borg, and that's just how it's gonna be, bro.
Okay.
Well, we won't know what we're getting. The concept of it being anything remotely like us is incredibly anthrocentric. So
that's what I'm saying. It's gonna be the Borg. It's gonna be a thing that takes all the biological material around it and turns it into itself.
Maybe it'll be one of those happy accidents where like the extraterrestrial forces consider plastic and microplastics the most important, like, rare commodity.
And then they just eat all up all our pollution.
And then they eat up the pollution to finish.
That's brilliant, Ben. That is brilliant.
Well, let us know what you think about all of this. And I'm going to leave us with a message from Pentagon spokeswoman Susan Go. Ready? To maintain operations security and to avoid disclosing information that may be useful to potential adversaries, DoD does not discuss publicly the details of reports, observations, or examinations of reported incursions into our training ranges or designated airspace, including those incursions initially designated as unidentified aerial phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that helps everyone sleep, because it put me to sleep. And it's
the same thing as saying, look, if they're aliens, we're not going to tell you.
Yeah,
if you parse the sentence, which is dope.